Up+Adam.
Tractor systems are offline.
We are Beyond FM.
Beyond FM.
The future of broadcasting is here.
Up+Adam with Adam Montiel. It's community content from Concentrate. It's Up+Adam with Adam Montiel.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Yes, some say life is just where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
Thank you so much for being Up+Adam. We are back. It is Tuesday. I hope you had a great weekend. We took Monday off. Well, it was a very heavy weekend. We said farewell and celebrated the life of John Justin Davis, and I thought I would be able to, is a better way to say it, express my tribute to him here, and I just can't yet. I'm just not ready. I think what happened on Saturday was one, so beautiful. The service was just unlike anything ever. I mean, it was like 1,300 people came out. And remember, Saturday was a little rainy in the beginning. And as, got off the freeway to go to Santa Margarita Ranch and right off on the 58, it's like already backed up cars getting to Santa Margarita Ranch. And the sun, like around 3:00, the clouds just parted. The sun was out. It was really special. It was just perfect. But I do have, even if I just read a little bit of the tribute that I read at Justin's service, I just don't think I can do it today without, reacting. It was a really, really special service and a very special man. So we will pay later this week tribute to John Justin Davis, an incredible doctor in this community, an incredible friend, community member. Just to see 1,300 plus people come on out on a day where they woke up and it was raining, but they didn't give a shit. They went out and they paid respects to just an awesome man, and those clouds, they just opened up. It was really, really cool. So today is Tuesday. So thank you for your indulgence in me taking yesterday off. When it comes to survival, it's not always about the big moments. It's like the quiet battles behind closed doors, right? Well, Kristin Casey knows those battles all too well. A recovered alcoholic, a former stripper, intimacy coach, certified surrogate partner. I don't even know what that is. And she's an author, a best-selling author. Kristin has rebuilt her life from the inside out. Phenomenally interesting woman. And I didn't know how this interview would play here, but I'm excited about it because I just found her so interesting, and I love sharing interesting conversations with you. Her work explores everything from addiction, recovery, sexuality, intimacy, power, and vulnerability. In her latest book, it's called Casey Dancer. It pulls no punches. She also penned a best-selling memoir, Rock Monster, My Life with Joe Walsh, chronicling her wild years with the Eagles' legendary guitarist. Wow. Kristin's story is really a masterclass in resilience and just honesty. It's just brutally honest. And in honor of April being Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we're also tapping into how Kristin's work intersects with healing, self-acceptance, empowerment even, right? Important topics highlighted by incredible local organizations like Lumina Alliance. Later this week, we're going to be doing their Lumina Nights. It just all felt like it fit. Later this show, we're going to hear the raw and eye-opening conversations about finding validation without losing yourself, navigating recovery without surrendering passion, and why the stories we don't tell are sometimes the ones that save us. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. We'll share it today. Coming up before that, what do we got going on? Ooh, you see this in the Tribune. The Strawberry Festival in Santa Maria getting protested. Farm workers making some noise in Santa Maria. They're asking for something a little sweeter than strawberries this time around. A $26 an hour minimum wage. They quote a lady named Gabriela Vivar, mom of 4 who rises every day at 4 a.m. to pick strawberries. She says farm workers are the backbone of the state, but their wages haven't kept up with the cost of just trying to live. It's interesting because, she's right, but I remember working for a radio station and you're like, where's cost of living? What are we doing? Right? So it's happening everywhere, but their wages, they haven't kept up with the cost of living. And folks, like all folks, just try to live, Right now, farm workers in Santa Maria make about 28 cents per pound that they pick, while those berries show up on grocery shelves, and those prices have only gone up and up and up. At a rally outside the Santa Maria Strawberry Festival, 80 farm workers and supporters called for dignity, for respect, and a better paycheck. They're pointing out that while strawberries raked in $775 million last year in Santa Barbara County alone, here's the kicker. Picking strawberries, I was reading, can be more dangerous than driving a semi-truck. I don't know why I said semi. That was weird. Or even working construction. They say farm workers have a fatality rate of 23 deaths per 100,000 workers. That was in 2022. And that's nearly double other risky professions. So I wanted to dig into that because, first of all, it didn't sound true, but it is true. But I wanted to know why. Over half of those deaths, you know what they are? They're when a tractor tips over. Over half the deaths of farm workers are when tractors flip over. And they say it's such a common thing. 1 in 10 farm workers, they say in one's career, will be in a tractor that flips over. 10%? That seems, I don't know. We got to make put some big bumpers on the side of these things. I don't know what's going on. But protesters say $26 an hour isn't just about more money. It's about recognizing that tough, dirty, dangerous work deserves dignity too. Their petition is already gathering some steam. Now, look, I'm kind of just taking this all in. $26 an hour to pick strawberries. We all kind of think and go back to what we were making when we were doing like entry level or, really like grinding and doing manual stuff. And I know the times have changed, but that's $54,000 a year over. I mean, listen, I'm all for people getting paid fairly, especially for work that's hard, dirty, dangerous, but real talk. You know what $25 an hour gets you right now? I was looking at other jobs for $25 an hour and they want 26. So even under what these folks are asking for, a receptionist at a law firm. I was on ZipRecruiter, $25 an hour. An admin assistant at a realty office, $25 an hour. How about this? A preschool teacher. You got to keep 25 3-year-olds from eating Play-Doh and biting each other. $23 an hour. Now, how about a yard duty? Remember those yard duties? They didn't mess around. A yard duty for an elementary school. You're out there at recess playing referee for kids, making sure they're not killing each other. $23 an hour. $23 an hour from keeping 4th graders from turning recess into Fight Club. Meanwhile, they want $26 to pick strawberries. I mean, it's more than a delivery driver. It's more than a production worker at a food plant. And it's only a few $1,000s less than the median California teacher income, which is at 58. Again, that's the median, not the mean, which is the average. So picking strawberries, it's brutal. It's honorable. No doubt. It's honorable, of course. But are we ready to say it's more valuable than running a classroom or keeping people's kids alive every day during recess? It's a wild conversation. I get it. And it just goes to show you inflation isn't just squeezing wallets. It's kind of reshuffling the whole idea of what a fair wage even is. So I'm all for people who work their ass off, asking for more money and asking to be paid what they deserve. Hell yeah. I'm with them. But you look at some of these other jobs, like they're not pulling in $26 an hour. All right, one more little nugget. I was looking as we're kind of rearranging the fridge recently. I know, exciting stuff. And if you're like me, your fridge is crammed full. This is kind of a WTF, what the food segment. Real quick, little hack I saw as I was searching for like, what are some hacks that people are using to like organize their fridge space? So I did. I found this article and it spelled it all out. It was kind of interesting. One, they say use square or rectangle storage containers. You're wasting space if you use anything circular. It's a great point. Stack everything you can. Using all the vertical space in the fridge, it's key. Also helps retain the temperature. It does that with a cooler too, by the way. Try and stack your cooler to the brim because that to keep things really cold. Take food out of its packaging. Boxes are bulky. They're unnecessary. And skip organizers like baskets, etc. You know what I'm talking about. All they do is take up space. This one was a good one. Take advantage of the walls. They make little suction cup caddies that are awesome. I got some coming our way from Amazon. This is an organizer that works because it doesn't take up any previously used space. It actually gives you new space. A lot of your vegetables don't need to be refrigerated. potatoes, onions, garlic, tomatoes. Leave them out. Leave them on the counter. So I thought that stuff was pretty helpful. Loved it. Maybe you did too. I'm ready to get into our chat. I really am. Looking forward to introducing you to Kristin Casey. Before that, I want to thank our friends at Dow for being Up and Adam. They just dropped something called A Taste of Luxury. These tiny vials with big flavor. You get to sample Dow's top tier wines like Soul of the Lion, like Patrimony, in sleek 100 ml pours. Then there's Dow Plus, their app for their community that gets you exclusive wines, VIP events, gets you the Connect, the all access Connect to Perks on the Mountain. Get to dowvineyards.com. One, make an appointment to taste up there. Check it out. Serious luxury, Paso style, dowvineyards.com.
It's Up and Adam with Adam Montiel.
All right, joining us today, Kristin Casey, someone who has lived a dozen lives and has turned every scar into a story. A recovered alcoholic, an addict, Kristin spent years navigating the worlds of addiction, intimacy, and empowerment. She's a certified sexuality counselor, a surrogate partner trained through IPSA, and the author of Rock Monster, My Life with Joe Walsh. Her newest release, though, is called Casey Dancer. From rebuilding self-worth to redefining what love and power actually mean, Kristin's journey is both inspiring and deeply human. Kristin, really excited that you're Up and Adam. Thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, it's a little early for me, or it was when I first started, but I'm good now. Good.
When you were writing Casey Dancer, what was the one chapter you almost didn't include, but you knew you had to?
That's a really good question. You're astute. Okay, so there were two chapters that come to mind, but I'm going to say one of them was about a personal relationship I had with a local musician. I won't say his name, but when I wrote my first book, Rock Monster, My Life with Joe Walsh is he's a huge star. And so because of that, he's sort of public property in a way. You're allowed to write about public figures. This personal relationship I had with a local Austin musician, I almost didn't include it because I thought it's really personal. Do I have when you write about somebody else, you're always wondering, how much do I have a right to share? And the truth is, he was a wonderful guy, and we had some tension in the relationship, and it's a very fine line, kind of writing about the personal relationship you had with somebody who's still living and is still a friend of yours, right? So that was a really tricky chapter to write.
Now, there's a scene where you describe stripping as the only place where you ever felt supreme confidence. What did the club give you that the real world never did and never could at that time?
Oh, that's a good question, too. When I first started stripping, my first day to this day is one of the most just horrifying memories of my life. I was not comfortable with my body. I was 18 years old. I was thrown on stage as soon as I walked in the club and asked to strip in front of a bunch of people. I didn't know what I was doing. It was actually a traumatic experience for me. But I also recognized something about the energy of the club and the music, and everyone was having such a good time. And there was something about the atmosphere and this embrace of sexual energy and sexuality that you didn't get in the real world, right? Like, women were still shamed for being sexual beings and for having, for being horny and for being aroused. And I recognized, and I was a highly sexual person. I didn't really know what to do with it. And I was kind of inhibited, but I had a lot of sexual energy, and I felt like it was celebrated in the club. And so I kept coming back. And after a few months, I learned how to dance really well. And all of a sudden I just felt like this sense of, you get praised a lot. You get a lot of compliments, not just on your body, but your personality and your wit. Like, if I could make a customer laugh, they would tell me how funny I was, or if we would have a conversation, because you do a lot of talking as a stripper. And I'd say something that they found interesting or intelligent, and then they compliment you on that too. And more than anything, I felt like I could express my sexual energy, and it was celebrated and not shamed. And so night after night after night, going to work was just a joy. And I got to be a really good dancer. I always kind of had a talent for dancing anyway, even in high school. And so it just got to be this place where I felt welcomed and appreciated and celebrated on a daily basis. Whereas out in the world, I just never felt like I could get things right. I kept dropping out of college. I couldn't seem to forge a really healthy relationship with anyone. My dating life was kind of in shambles, but I could go into the club and everything would just click. And so for the kind of my whole life, I think I established this sense of self-confidence at the club that just stayed with me.
Now, you write about intimacy like someone who's had to rebuild their understanding of it from the ground up. Like, what's something that you used to believe about love that sobriety completely rewired?
Oh, I think I felt that you had to earn it. You had to, I think a lot of our attitudes about relationships and the way we behave in our romantic relationships stem from childhood, right? So when I was growing up, my mother, God love her, she was a very exacting woman. And so she was hypercritical. And so I always thought you have to hide your flaws. Nobody's going to love you if you have flaws. When in truth, real love means you love a person either with their flaws, warts and all, or at the very least, in spite of their flaws. Mm-hmm. But I thought you have to hide your flaws, so you can never really be authentic. And then with my dad was very loving. He really gave me a lot of affection and approval, and he cherished me and made me feel just like enjoyable to be around. But at the same time, when things were bad, when I was moody or depressed or unhappy or upset, that he didn't like, and he kind of checked out. So I grew up believing you can't have flaws and you can't be emotionally needy in any way. So for the rest of my life, until later in life, I approached intimate relationships hiding those parts of myself. Anything that I considered a flaw and anything that seemed emotionally needy. But the funny thing is, when you're in an intimate relationship, you're supposed to let your partner see your emotional needs. And you're supposed to see theirs and help be someone that they can lean on, and let them be someone that you can lean on and help you through. That's what bonds you together, is that you're helping each other through whatever emotional issues you're having. If you're having a bad day at work, or if you're having a fight with your mother, you want to be able to turn to your romantic partner and say, I'm feeling really insecure or lost or hurt or whatever. But I wouldn't do that. I was always, trying to be strong and cool when inside it was crumbling. And you can't forge real intimacy if you're not being your full authentic self, the light and the dark. And once I finally learned that, I started attracting better quality men into my life. Because if you're going to be a one-dimensional person, you're going to attract one-dimensional people, right? Mm-hmm. You tend to attract the level of self-awareness in a person that you're exhibiting in yourself.
Mm-hmm. Especially like that emotional intelligence, right?
Exactly.
There's this presence in the book of like, I needed thrill, but I needed it without losing myself. Like, what's the difference between thrill and chaos for someone in recovery?
Well, definitely, I would say that, my life before recovery was complete and utter chaos. I didn't just dabble in a sexual thrill here and there. I was utterly promiscuous with no discernment whatsoever, sleeping with men that weren't, healthy for me. And when I wouldn't just have a few drinks here and there and relax, I would have, 4 bottles a day. Like, everything I did was to excess. So what I wanted to do in sobriety, at first I had no fun in my life at all. Like, for the first 5 years of sobriety, I never went dancing. I never went to parties. All I did was work. That's it. Oh, and work out. I worked out 3 times a day, and I worked 80 hours a week. And one day I realized, okay, that's not balanced. I went from one extreme to another. And what you have to do is you have to learn how to have fun. You have to be able to go out and meet a guy and have a fun, if you want a one-night stand or if you want to have a short fling, do that, but do it with a guy who's kind of healthy in his own head, and don't be juggling 10 guys at once. I mean, maybe 3, but not 10. Like, it's all a matter of moderation, right? It's a matter of moderating your alcohol intake, if you can do that. As an alcoholic, I can't. But when every area of life, like if you're going to, even with spending money, like I developed a lot of addictions early in sobriety that weren't drugs or alcohol, but like I would either hoard money or spend it ridiculously. I would either not work out at all or work out 3 times a day until I like injured myself. So it's that thing about finding balance in life, doing things in moderation, working out in moderation, working in moderation, having sex in whatever amount of moderation feels healthy for you, right? There's a difference between chaos and having an exciting life. I didn't want to have a really conventional life. I wanted excitement. I wanted to strip. I wanted to go dancing. I wanted to maybe play the field a little bit. I remember dating, I talk about this in the book. There was a period in my life where I was juggling 3 guys, and it was super fun, and I don't regret a minute of it. But they were also 3 really healthy guys that treated me well versus the way I would have done it before I got sober, which is date 3 guys who couldn't care less about me and treated me like crap.
Yeah. I'm curious, what did your time in the club teach you about power, and who really holds it in a room?
That's such a good question. There's this thing about that there's a quote by Mae West. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. You can be a stripper with no boundaries, letting the customer paw at you and suck on you and slide his fingers in your G-string and talk to you in ways that you find, degrading. Or you can be a stripper who makes more money than anyone else in the club, who tells the customer, this is how much touch I'm uncomfortable with. This is what kind of conversation I'm comfortable with. And what will happen is, again, you will attract to you the kind of respectful customer who's got a lot of money to spend versus a kind of disrespectful customer who's looking for a doormat to spend an afternoon with, right? Like, you get all kinds of customers in the club. If you're in fear about not making enough money, and so you just drop all boundaries thinking I have to let them get away with anything they want, or I'm not going to make any money, you're going to attract a lot of really low end customers. But if you go in there with a set of boundaries and you're good at your job, because here's the thing, you have to be a good dancer. You have to be erotic. You have to be emotionally and physically open and generous. Guys come there because they're craving a physical thrill and a little bit of an emotional connection. A lot of guys going into strip clubs want to establish even a brief, fleeting sense of intimacy, genuine intimacy with someone. So you have to be able to do that. And if you can do that with a set of boundaries like I did, and I talk about it a lot in the book, a lot of my experiences and anecdotes from stripping, I think, really illuminate how to do it with the sense of empowerment. And I was always one of the top earners in my club, if not the top earner in a lot of my clubs. And I always did it with boundaries. And you just attract a higher quality of customer. That's all there is to it. There's something to be said about you attract people who are, again, kind of at the place you're at. So if you want a respectful customer, treat yourself with self-respect.
Now let's flip it. What's one myth about strippers that's so wrong it's actually laughable?
Oh gosh, I don't know. How many? Let's see. Can you come up with one, and I'll tell you if it's right or not.
I'm just trying to think. What do we still not get about the people we secretly admire, but publicly also judge in a way? You know what I mean?
Well, I will tell you. It's funny. I think a lot of people assume that because strippers are doing this physical job for a living, that they're not smart. And that's not true. I can't tell you how many women I stripped with were putting themselves through college. And I'm talking PhD candidates. I stripped with at least 2 lawyers. They were just bringing in some extra money on the side because early in your career as a lawyer, you don't usually make all that much money. Some of these women were simply smart, and they just, like myself, I was a writer. I wanted time to write. I wanted to create my own schedule. As a realtor, I was working 6 days a week. There was no time to write my books. But as a stripper, I could make the same money working 3 days a week, and then I could spend 4 days a week writing my books and screenplays. So, sure, there are some women in the strip clubs who probably have an average IQ or a lower than average IQ, but that's true in life, right? That's right. True in the banking industry or the yoga industry, right? There are just as many smart, and I mean whip smart women in the strip club industry as there are anywhere else.
Now, you were writing about your sex life, your shame, your high or heartbreak online years before Instagram therapy made it trendy. Do you feel like you were ahead of your time or just deeply human at the exact wrong moment?
I like to think I was ahead of my time, if you want to know the truth. It's been really gratifying to see how a lot of the stuff that I've been writing about for 20 years is now mainstream. I mean, look at Anora sweeping the Oscars the way it did. That movie about a stripper/escort. I've been writing my first screenplay about a stripper/escort. I wrote that 14 years ago. And I've been writing, I wrote my first short story about escorting and stripping probably in 2004 or 5, so 20 years ago. So to me, it's fantastic to see how the world has opened up to that. It's also a little bittersweet because I'm like, yeah, I was writing about this stuff a long time ago and my screenplay didn't get made.
Right. Well, you talk a lot about validation, men choosing you, clients tipping you, editors publishing you. What does validation look like for you now, even at times when no one's watching?
I will say that's a really good point because I feel so lucky and fortunate to have had the amount of validation I had. A lot of women, they're like, oh, I feel bad for wishing my husband would compliment me more or whatever. But I was on stage for 14 years getting compliments all day long for 14 years. And then as an escort, which I did for another 12 years, you just get put on a pedestal. And, I don't regret any of that. And I feel like I should feel ashamed for having wanted and needed all of that. But I think everybody should be complimenting each other a lot more. And especially men should be getting more compliments than they do. Women need to be complimenting men on a regular basis the way men do women. And it's just not happening. But that's a whole other point. What were we talking about? Oh, validation. So now I will say that my self-esteem is in such a healthy place and my self-confidence is in such a healthy place. Part of that is because I was able to write my books and get a lot of really positive critical feedback. I mean, the first one sold really well. The second one looks like it's selling really well. I mean, it just hit the market yesterday, but the pre-orders are off the charts. So that's incredibly validating. I think I'm 57 years old, and I'm in good shape, but I don't need compliments on my body anymore. My partner loves my body. He tells me so every day. That's all I need in that vein. But it's really validating to have people appreciate the way I can convey what little wisdom I've attained in the world through my books and my interviews, and they seem to feel like I have something to say. And to me, at this point in my life, nothing could be more validating. Well, you're so humble. And I'll take more compliments all the time. So I love that point that you made. And I love that you're in a great place. I mean, for someone who's survived addiction, depression, heartbreak, I'm curious, what's something tiny that makes you feel incredibly alive? Oh, something tiny that makes me feel alive. This is silly, but on a daily basis, I love waking up in the morning and playing with my cats and then going for a walk with my partner. I live right on the edge of a park on the river that goes through Austin, and just walking along, watching the city wake up at sunrise every morning. I mean, I'm a person who used to watch the sunrise as it was coming off of a Coke or a crack binge with my partner, feeling like 10 times of 10 times just shame, just waves and waves of shame. And now I get up at 6 a.m. and go for a walk in the park and watch the sun come up and watch the city come to life. And it just makes me feel so grounded and connected to humanity in a way that I never felt in my teens and 20s. And that's a really rewarding experience. Intimacy with your partner is one thing, but having a sense of connection with everyone else in the world, that's a really rewarding experience. I think that I denied myself for a long time, and that makes me feel alive. Yeah, your writing is, I like the way you write. And there's this gorgeous line where you say, like, the cuddling was Christmas in February. For someone who writes so intimately, do you ever feel lonelier after you share it? No, I don't think I do. I think that, I think sometimes you feel lonely when you're writing because you don't know if anyone's ever going to read it or appreciate it. And then when it goes out into the world and somebody reads it, even if you write like some little article on a literary magazine, some obscure magazine, and one or two people comment on it, you just feel like, oh, I feel seen. I don't need to connect with every single person in the world, but just, a little bit here and there, that alone can be really rewarding. I think sometimes writing is a little bit lonely because you don't know what's going to happen when you're done. But I've been lucky so far. And so most of my writing has been, unfortunately, my screenplays haven't been produced. And so that can be a lonely exercise. But my books have been well received. And so that's been really rewarding. And you've written about sex, love, stripping, power, pain, and somehow you still sound, and I love this about your writing, you still sound like someone chasing wonder. What do you believe in now that you never thought you would before? Oh, thank you for saying that, because I think when I grew up, I wasn't somebody who had any kind of childlike sense of wonderment. I feel like I was kind of cynical even in my teens. Mm-hmm. And, so being able to, and I will say also, I was able to get in touch with that part of me, that childlike sense of wonderment, through the men that I dated, because they always had that. And that's an interesting thing about attraction and chemistry, is that part of you that you're missing or that you suppressed in childhood, you tend to be attracted to in others. And so they help bring it out in you. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about relationships in general, is that you help each other become more whole within yourself. And so that thing about that compliment you just gave me about having a sense of wonderment, I really appreciate that.
Oh,
that means I've come full circle. You couldn't have given me a better compliment. Thank you for that.
Of course. And I hope this final question kind of rounds that out, because I look at, the younger you, maybe back in Vegas, hungover, spinning, could see the you now. What would she say? Would she believe you made it like you did?
Oh, no, she would not have. I thought I was going to end up in this place, I think it would have been an easier road, but I was so afraid that I was just going to struggle for my whole life. And everybody kept telling me, it's going to get better, it's going to get better. But I just, I was always a glass half empty kind of person. So I didn't really trust it or believe in it until it happened. And I wish I had just trusted it more, because it would have been easier to think. And, the thing is, if you keep doing all the right things, you are going to end up in a better place. You really are. But you couldn't have told me that 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You just couldn't have. I just had to see it for myself. Thank God I stuck it through and did.
Right. Was this conversation fun for you? I really enjoyed it.
It was super fun, Adam. I'd love to talk to you again anytime. This is a really, really fun interview for me.
I would too. What's the best way to reach out? Like Instagram or email through your website or what?
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all those. But the best way to catch me, to find all those links, is on KristinCasey.com.
Great.
And that's spelled KristinCasey.
I'll put all the links in the show notes to the book. Also, Rock Monster 2, great book. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, Kristin. Thank you so much for the time, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks so much for the great interview.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
Kristin, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey, your heart, your hard-earned wisdom. To dive deeper into Kristin's writing and learn more about her coaching work even, go to KristinCasey.com. You can also grab her books, Rock Monster and Casey Dancer, the new one. Wherever you get your books, the links are also in the show notes. All right, coming out of a conversation like that, it's a perfect time to remind you of our work with Lumina Alliance. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and Lumina Alliance back with one of the most powerful events of the year. 3 nights at the Pavilion on the Lake, Lumina Nights. Starts this Thursday. Yeah, this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If there are tickets left, they will be at luminaalliance.org. I'm not even sure as we get this close to the event, but check out the great work that they do for victims of intimate partner violence, sexual assault, domestic violence. I love my friends at Lumina Alliance. Check them out. Link in the show notes to luminaalliance.org. All right, tomorrow it is Wednesday. Week's going quick. Thanks to Moonshiner Collective for being Up and Adam with original music called Start Again. Thank you for rating, reviewing, subscribing to the show, telling a friend about what we're doing here, sharing it with others. It means a lot. Well, yesterday, cloudy. Today, sunny. About 10 degrees warmer wherever you are in SoCal today. So enjoy the sunshine and enjoy your Tuesday. Tomorrow's going to look a little bit like yesterday did. Thursday will be sunny with mild temps. So today's the big warm day of the week. So enjoy it. Till tomorrow, I'm Adam Montiel. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being Up and Adam.